welcome to another edition of the Enlightened Mike podcast. My name's Tim, as always, and I'm joined by my two friends, Archer and Jacob, members of Team Galaxy Brain, and recent top 8 extraordinaires of a 1K here locally. And we'll dive into that in a moment. We're also going to go over the Pro Tour and calling results from Baltimore. There's some spicy selection and some interesting top 8 distributions. We weren't able to do our last week episode. We recorded it, but there was some weird stuff going on with the audio, so we couldn't air our predictions, but we did make predictions, so we can kind of talk about how that lined up against our top 8. But before all that, how was your guys' week? What'd you guys do? How's it going?
Jacob, you take it away.
It was good. I did the normal armory grind because, like you said, we were getting ready for a 1K down in Springfield, Oregon, which was fun. A bunch of the guys on the team drove down and participated. It was cool. I really, really liked that shop down there. It was Mox Valley Games. I'd never been, and they were really cool, like nice people. The tournament ran really well and was like just clean, nice place. They sold a bunch of Gundams, but it was kind of fun to be watching Pro Tour finals, like the top 8, while playing in the meta, like kind of see where we were playing in a competitive meta because there was money on the line. And so I think we saw a pretty similar spread of decks at our event. Not as many Dromais though. Not as many Dromais.
One, I think. Just one, I think.
Just one.
Yeah.
And yeah, actually, like you said, me and Archer both made top 8 at opposite ends of the spectrum. Me down there at 8th, and Archer up there at 1st. You want to talk to us? And I was on Katsu. I invited a buddy to come down and play Fab for essentially the first time. We've played Talishar games online, and he lives down there in Eugene, right next to Springfield. And I was like, hey, come play this event. And I didn't want to put him on Katsu. I thought the combo lines were just going to really ruin his afternoon. So I put him on Briar. And from all, he ended up winning one game. But from all the opponents I talked to, they were like, if this is his first time playing, like, he is definitely holding his own, and he's figuring this out.
How did he do in the tournament overall?
He went 1-4. He beat a Kano, but a LEXI player that ended up top 8ing said that it was one of his closest games in Swiss. And I was really hyped to hear that. And he pulled like a really icy but good snaps turn, and turned like a 2-card hand into 9 damage, and he was just not ready for that. So that was cool.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, Katsu was good. I had Amir first round, and then lost to 2 Oldhims because Katsu just has horrible Oldhim matchup. And then took down an Azalea, and then took down an Aggro Oldhim to squeak into top 8. That was my last matchup. But yeah, how was first place, Archer?
Hold on, I'm curious about this aggro Oldhim. Like, what did they have, like Snapdragon Scalers and Enlightened Strikes and stuff, or like?
No, it was like
every turn.
It was tectonic plating, stalagmite, right? So you're trying to flow resources, and he was just prioritizing his hand over blocking, right? So he was like allowing me to have decent combo turns, thinking, the disruption on this next turn will get him. And I go, oh no, I just take an off turn. I block out your huge disruption.
Yeah.
And I keep going about my game plan. Yeah. Yeah. Right. How was first, Archer?
So I brought the same LEXI list that another teammate of ours brought to the Pro Tour. Basically the same Pieces list that's been really popular over the weekend. Went 5-0, bunch of tight games. Got to execute like a really, really validating pitch stack win con versus Natan. Where in our previous games he had been able to
that's awesome.
Pitch disruption so that like if I had off turns of all blues in the second cycle, he was able to punish me for that. And then I couldn't execute my next turn. But this time I prioritized it differently. I prioritized getting reds to the bottom so I could have pressure turns to set up the combo in the end. And it just worked. I had like damage left in my deck after presenting lethal. So it was very validating because I've been practicing that. But yeah, a bunch of other really tight games. Had to play Jacob in top 8 and beat him.
I missed the breaking scales activation to hit mass trigger, and I actually think it would make a significant difference in the game.
I think it's worth it. It like 4 more damage.
Yeah,
right?
no, yeah. I mean, and if it was a gust wave, it could have been like 7 or 8 more damage because I grab another bonds from graveyard.
Yeah.
Like it actually could have been like worth it.
Yeah.
Just missed it.
Yeah.
But I was having a good time with the day, honestly. Like I was so hyped that my buddy was playing, like my buddy Alec was playing Fab for the first time. I did not expect to squeak into top 8 after losing so awfully to the defensive Oldhams. Both members of our team, actually, which was funny. I just had to do it back to back and take those L's.
Was Tristan the aggro Oldham? Yeah. He's got
no.
Got a good...
Tristan wasn't the aggro one, so like
the
Natan matchup was pretty straightforward. Just block it out, and then once he had a good hand and had good disruption, he just takes all tempo, and just pushes it down the pipe. And then Tristan is actually running a more ice heavy deck, and for Katsu that's just a nightmare. It was ice react every single turn. And if it wasn't ice react on a turn, I knew that he was going to throw something chunky at me. So that was also, you're like, oh, you're about to throw like Endless Winter or something at me, or some huge, just disruptive attack that demands cards.
2-card 8.
So he was more tradey, right? Like the Tristan deck's more trade based, whereas Natan is just absolute defense unless I have the turn. And he just raced me down too. Like once Natan gets tempo, it's like I'm dumping my whole hand and still just taking damage. And then the last Oldham, I just think, like I said, prioritized his hand over playing defensively and really just getting value that way. And I was able to have double bonds was essential to winning every game of the day. My deck is really geared towards, I have a ton of the combo cards, so it's actually really easy for me to get a double bonds turn, usually in the second half of the game, right before second cycle. My graveyard's filled and I can just lace together the combo pretty easily. And when you do that, it's you can have a 3-card hand that presents like 20 plus damage, and that's one of the only decks that can do something crazy like that.
Yep.
And I would play it more.
Really nice.
I would play it more if Oldham wasn't the big boogeyman of the season.
Well, he's after this weekend at the Pro Tour. Part of me kind of wishes he won the calling, so he'd be at like 998 or 988 or something. But after the Pro Tour win, he should be at 888 points. So
do you want to talk about that Pro Tour?
Yeah.
Top 8? Yeah.
I do. So as all of you know, there was a Pro Tour alongside a calling this weekend in Baltimore. I wanted to go when I heard about it like 5 months ago or something, and I couldn't really make it work. But everybody that I heard from or saw on Twitter or whatever, everybody had such a good time that it made me really sad that I missed it. So, it looked like an amazing event. Apparently, after they dropped all the Pro Tour players that had signed up for the calling just in case, they still had not 800 or 900 people in the calling, which is insane. And there was 300 people in the Pro Tour, so both huge events. The Oldham, I didn't see anything super crazy in his list, just a standard Oldham. he ended up taking that over Mara Ferris, who was on what she calls Empress Dromai. So it's like a very red line, more aggressive deck as opposed to like the grindier Dromai, I guess. And then following those, we had an Azalea and 4 Lexis as well in the top 8. Or did I cover everything? Oh, and then there was an additional Dromai with Yuha. I don't know how to say his last name. Sarnalampi? Hey, we'll just call him Yuha. He was on more of a like a traditional Dromai build, we'll call it. So he had a lot more of the like bigger dragons, like Vincerikai, Necria, that kind of stuff. So what do you guys think? What compared to what we thought going into Pro Tour Baltimore, how did this top 8 compare to our top 8 predictions? How we thought the meta was going to shake up? What's your take?
So I think we were all pretty high on Lexi heading into this event. We knew as a team how strong it was because two of our really strong members, myself and Eli, had been grinding that deck for a really long time and kind of terrorizing some of our testing sessions. I think the thing that came as a surprise is the Long Oldhams made to the top. Michael Fang was the only Oldham, and from what I hear on the social medias is that he dodged a lot of Lexis at the top tables. And that maybe is a reason why there weren't a lot of Oldhams represented, is because the other Oldhams had to play against these like high-end Lexi players, which I think is a slightly Lexi favorite now.
Well, it's funny you even say that, because looking at the top 8, he also skirted Lexi all the way through the top 8.
Yep.
So that's actually very relevant. Not to take away from Michael Fang's, when he played that last Mara game, he just played so perfectly. It was insane. It was so fun to watch. And the Azalea that started the day, that was cool.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the like 90 minutes grind fest that was the semifinals against Yuha? Because it was a crazy matchup. And
it was going on when we left our drive, and it was still going on when we got to Eugene.
Oh shit. Yeah. It was
nearly 2 hours.
It was crazy. So I had it going on in the background while I was doing other stuff. And if you guys see me reaching off screen, it's to pet my dog, who's being very needy. But I was watching it while I was doing other stuff, and it was a grind fest. And it got down to fatigue, as the matchup will typically go. And I need to watch. I want to watch it again, because I'm wondering if Yuha could have done something differently, or if something happened where like Michael Fang like had cards in the right sequence to like tip things in his favor. Like I'm wondering where the breaking point in the match was, but then I'd have to go back and watch 90 minutes of an Oldham v Dromai matchup. So that's a tough sell, but it was crazy. And Michael Fang's a very, very good player. So I'm really happy that he pulled out the W. That matchup stuck out to me. And then the Mara Ferris matches also, like, she played against those Lexis very, very well. And I was very impressed with how she piloted the deck.
That I think, the listener doesn't know this.
What was that? Was that were you just like rubbing your mic or something?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, okay. Cool.
I had to unplug something.
Oh, okay.
Are we good now? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I was going to say the listener doesn't know this because we had to cut the last episode, but I think all of us had a bit more diversity in this top 8. I think we predicted at least like fifth hero. We knew it was going to be tight, but I think that this clearly shows, one, that Lexi is top deck. It is top dog.
Yeah.
Shows, two, that we do have our classic rock, paper, scissors.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think
we have a triangle.
This definitely shows that our triangle now is Lexi, Dromai, Oldham. correct? And then we have Azalea.
Jacob's on the move. Yeah. I love that.
Change of locale.
Yeah, that's I agree. I think so. How do you think the triangle actually shakes out though? Because I have a feeling that Archer and Jacob both have different opinions. So what's the rock, paper, scissors?
So we got Oldham beats Droma.
Disagree. Droma? Go on.
Slightly favored. It's been shown.
Yeah. No, slightly I think favored. Okay, sure. Okay.
The point is all three of these triangles, all the three of these directions, it's just slightly unfavored the other way. So Oldham beats Dromai beats Lexi beats Oldham. And they're all like 55-45s.
Yeah, see, I completely agree. I think it's this dynamic where there's favored as you go through the triangle, but there's no blowouts. Like I think in past rock, paper, scissors formats in this game, we've had decks that are like, this is completely the counter to this, and this is completely the counter to this.
Totally.
Whereas this meta triangle does feel more gamey. It feels like it has more room for player expression, has more room for player skill. So like I think the tweaking amongst the deck lists is interesting because I don't think all four of these Lexi's fuse lists.
Oh yeah, some of them have like chilling ice, like a couple chilling ice veins type of thing, but they're mostly the same.
Yeah,
I think that's interesting.
I agree. So I largely agree. I think for me, I think Lexi is slightly favored into Oldham, and I think Oldham and Dromai are pretty even. And I think it is really like, I think the better player is probably going to win. Like I've actually played that matchup a lot over the last few weeks as I've been like really diving into Dromai. I got off Rhinar and obviously I'm off Prism still. So, you guys encouraged me to pick up Dromai, and just learn it. And so I've been really enjoying it, but like, that's the big hurdle is figuring out how to beat Oldham. And I think that it depends how you build your deck, and it depends like how perfectly you play. What I've been telling other folks that I've been talking to it or talking about it with is it's Dromai's matchup to lose, which isn't to say that it's an auto win if they do everything right, but they have so many decision points that they have to do correctly, and then they win. But every single mistake, like during every turn of the game, when you pitch, what you pitch, what you play, you know, how you present poppers, when you attack, like those making mistakes on those decision points are so punishing that it appears Oldham favored, if that makes sense. But I think both, like, I think it's very, like, as one of you said just now, skill expressive. I think that's a very good way of putting it. And I think that's actually pretty true for this meta in general. Like, I think there's a lot of really cool matchups and play patterns that require player skill.
Yep, I like this meta. This is maybe, besides the Starvo, Viserai, Prism meta, this is the first time that I've played like a in the top tier in the triangle deck. And I only played Viserai because that was my first deck and I was still pretty new.
Although that deck was popping when it had Skeleton.
Yeah, I just think if I was better then, how much better I could have performed. Like I was looking back on that, I sucked.
Well, I feel like, didn't you
and I switched to Chain during that too, because I didn't want to play a top tier deck.
Well, did you play Viserai when Skeleton was still legal? But were you able to go to a major event with it? Because like I feel like it got okay. Well, yeah, it's probably just because you were a noob or whatever, but
yeah, I think I bubbled out of top 8 at the first Fable Hobby ProQuest.
Sure. But yeah, no, going down a rabbit hole here. Any other thought? Do you guys have any other thoughts about the calling top 8. I think
a lot of
sorry. I was just going to say that I'm really excited that there were two different types of Dromais. I'm really excited about Michael Fang, and fuck Lexi. Okay, your turn, Jacob.
Well, I think it's interesting because there's one Oldhim here, and if we're talking, they skirted mostly Lexi's.
Hey, Jacob, we can't really hear you that well.
Yeah, your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, I think it's interesting that there's one Oldhim, and they skirted a lot of the Lexis. Like, is the Oldhim Lexi matchup that lopsided in Lexi's favor? Do you think is that what it is? And if so, if that's the deck that's targeting, so Oldhim beats Dromai is the idea, or do both of these decks beat Oldhim?
So I am saying I agree with Tim that it's a very tight matchup, and the better Dromai players can pull it off. But I think that's like you're comparing like the top to the top to the top. And I think for like, I don't know, you got to account for like bad Dromai players. They're going to lose that matchup. Whereas I think bad Dromai players can beat Lexi, and bad Lexi players can beat Oldhim. I just think like you can just absolutely high roll Oldhim with like double rain Razor's turns. Oh no, is Jacob frozen?
How good a player is specifically on the deck that they're piloting. Tim was talking about Dromai needing to understand the pitch deck and play and threats, and regardless of which version of the deck you're going to be playing, you need to understand that concept thoroughly to play Dromai well into Lexi to be able to beat it, or into Oldhim to be able to beat it. And then I think the only gap we have in this is I do think that Lexi just has a slightly favored matchup into Oldhim, just inherently. I think the way she can skirt Ice React, the amount of damage she can put out, and how just how Codex is really
she lends herself really well to like spike turns, right? To like setting up big spike turns. So like Oldhim has a hard time fatiguing it. And then also like she has 3 of a kind. So like if you try to race her and smack her down, she can just block out, play 3 of a kind, and then has tempo again. So it's really hard to play a tempo game too.
I mean, I do think it's interesting with the ban and restricted list coming up right around the corner. Do we think that one hero being half of the top 8 warrants LSS taking a serious look at neutering the deck a little bit, or do we think we survive with no problems?
My question is, how do they hit Lexi without just deleting her? My hesitancy about that is there's a lot of people, and this is the same for Azalea too, but to a lesser extent, because Azalea has shown that she's less dominant. No pun intended, because of her hero ability. But there's a lot of players that have been Ranger fans and dedicated to the archetype for so long. Like, think about our friend Justin in the local scene. Like, he only played Ranger for a long time. So my question, I guess, is how do you hit Lexi without totally deleting her from the meta? Yeah.
Do you want to answer that, Archer?
Yeah, I think there's actually a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways, and she has enough power now that like one hit's not going to delete her. I don't want it because I'm selfishly really liking the deck. And it feels really good, but also still has weaknesses. But it also is a major feels bad if something like gets nerfed about her, because like she's already been nerfed. Like she can't play ball lightning, so lightning Lexi has like a really hard time being relevant at all. And then lost hypothermia and amulet of ice, which like hypothermia was less played, but still played in some ice Lexi decks. Yeah. And then amulet of ice was like key for ice Lexi to be able to win in a lot of matchups. And so like, the deck's already been not targeted, but like hitting the cross.
It's been collateral. It's been collateral damage.
There's just been splash damage from when like Icelander and Oldhim were hit, right? Because like that. I think that Lexi was in like such a good spot power level wise before those bans, because she could negate her brick hands and do all these like cool like really flavorful like ice things, like Amulet, Hypothermia, um, and it made chilling Ice Vein really interesting in Lexi, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that like now that she's just fuseless, it's what do you hit, right? Like what do you take away if there is a ban?
There's plenty. So like there's plenty of cards that Lexi takes advantage of that wouldn't hit anything else. There's Endless Error, there's Three of a Kind. Rain Razors is probably not would probably hurt Azalea. Bolton Shot also would probably hurt all of the Rangers. So I think Bolton Shot's an option, but I think that would just that's too much. But yeah, Three of a Kind, Endless Arrow.
Yeah, those are
Let me
those
pull
are
up my
reasonable.
list real quick, and I'll like see if any others.
Honestly, Three of a Kind seems
That seems
egregious,
harsh, right? Yeah.
but it also seems appropriate. Like that doesn't kill the deck, right? Because you still have Codex. You have all
Yeah.
the codexes. Like
Yeah.
I see a world where it's like, oh, I don't have Three of a Kind, so I'll just load in and like start testing out
I
these other
could
codexes.
see I could see Endless Arrow. That's an interesting suggestion because like Azalea can't really abuse Endless Arrow. Lexi though, like you play Rain Razors and like Endless Arrow, and
And shoot it 4 times.
yeah,
The
you
same
can
arrow.
shoot
I mean,
the same arrow a ton of times. You could also with Codex of Frailty, right? You can put it into your arsenal and shoot it, and then when it hits, go back into your arsenal. Like that's not a
Well,
bad
I'm gonna
suggestion.
push back as the Ranger player here. That play doesn't make sense because you get a ponder token from the Codex, so then you
Well,
have two
yeah,
cards in your
I
hand.
know, but I mean, yeah, that was a bad
Not always
example.
pot of greed, is it?
Okay, whatever.
Not always
Uh,
pot of greed.
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, no, I think I don't think the codexes should be banned, honestly. Like I think I like them a lot. Like and
So
I
I have
hate
gotten
Three of a
is
Kind
destroyed by
Codex
them.
of
way more.
Inertia could get hit because only Lexi uses that really well, and that's like
Sure.
Codex of Inertia is really key in certain matchups. That's another option. Heat Seeker is also another option. Only Ranger really that uses Heat Seeker. Sorry, I just wanted
Seeker's
to
the one
poke
that
that in before. Oh, and Voltaire is the other one. But that one seems really harsh.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're killing the hero if you take away Voltaire.
Although
I
wouldn't
know
it
there's
be
other ways
awesome if
there,
you
but
if all three of the majestic weapons from Arya were banned? Just make it a
It'd be kind of
trifecta.
hilarious.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of
and they should have made Rosetta majestic
Yeah.
and elemental only.
Yeah. I think Rosetta would be fine if it was elemental only, but I don't know. Although, but then Viscerai would be. I mean, I don't know. That's a whole other topic. Um, so okay, so do you guys think Lexi needs a ban,
no.
Jacob?
Maybe, maybe, but
Maybe.
that's just because I am not playing the deck. I think I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
fair.
I think half of the top eight meta at the highest level of this game
Yeah,
shows that the deck is deck to pick.
yeah,
It's gonna beat bad players.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think as we talk about this next top eight, it shows a different story. A little bit of a different story, anyways. So the Pro Tour top eight is a bit leaning the other way. So we have three old hymns in the top eight and only two Lexis for the Pro Tour.
or for
So you're
the
just saying the calling now,
the
right?
calling. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well, and so
we're here.
something interesting before we dive into the calling topic. I want to ask you guys' opinion. So the Pro Tour is mixed format, and I want to know how much you guys and um, you guys both have different perspectives because Archer played at a Pro Tour. Jacob, you and I haven't, but from
Future
a
pro tour
yeah,
players.
we're future Pro Tour. Exactly. I appreciate that. Yeah, so as somebody, I would still consider us great players. We've done well at different events, played a lot of CC. So, as people who are looking at these deck lists after the fact and analyzing the data and looking at the standings, what do you both think about the difference and how we parse this information between the Pro Tour and the calling? Like, are you evaluating these top eights differently?
I'm not, but I do recognize that draft. But it's like it's so hard to quantify what that draft impact is. It's like almost useless to try to like think about it really. So I'm just I'm gonna treat them as the same.
I feel like if
Sure.
we didn't have the draft portion, there actually is a world where Brute shows up in this top 8.
I could see it, but I mean, I don't know.
Our homeboy is
Brute
not good
into
to draft.
Lexi, oof.
Literally from Twitter, this is all Twitter. They all posted this publicly. All
Okay.
3 of the Brute players that we know of or know um, said that their drafts went kind of shitty, and that's why they're not, because they all had positive CC records.
Yeah.
For Brute, that actually says something.
They also they also all only have one brute brain cell, so you don't have any other brain cells to dedicate to draft, right?
Be drafting, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I'm kidding. I'm just speaking from my own. I'm projecting because I only have one brute brain cell. I also have an illusionist brain cell, but no other brain cells for draft.
No, Nathan actually jokes they have like a group, like a Discord server called the shared Brute Brain Cell or whatever, something like that.
Yeah, something
and
like
it's all the people who have topped events with Brute.
I didn't see a Brute that made it into the calling top 8, but I do know that there was at least one Brute that was like 7-1 on day 1, and then the wheels fell off on day 2. I know that at the Pro Tour, Nathan, what is his last name? Shoot, Savage Land News. Yeah, Nathan Dolman. Yeah, so Nathan Dolman, aka Savage Lands News, did really well in CC at the Pro Tour, and he he kind of rage posted and not rage posted, but he posted in his Discord like, "Well, I just punted this draft," and I think he went 1-2 or 0-3, so he made day 2, and I think he played out the CC rounds, but he didn't obviously didn't top.
And we all saw the Levy on stream, right?
Yeah, we saw Levia, and they went 4-0.
That was cool. Cool. That's kind of crazy.
Paper playmats and crayons for life total. Which iconic, exactly. Okay, so back to the calling top 8. So I think you already called this out, Jacob. All just for my own single brain cell. 1 dash, 2 3 Oldhams, Viscerai, Azalea, and 2 Lexis. So the dash went to the finals and won, beating a Lexi and 2 Oldhams along the way. And a Viscerai made it to the quarterfinals, which I thought was really cool. So what do you guys think about the top 8? And again, let's compare it to our lost episode, our Pro Tour predictions. How does this measure up?
This is almost to a T what I predicted.
Yeah.
For Pro Tour, but this top 8 is almost the exact ratios. I think I said 2 Ultims. Oh, there is no Dromine. That is a boomer. But I think I had
decks, right? Dash.
Yeah, I had the 2 aggro road decks. I said either Briar or Dash. I think seeing Viz warms my heart. That's makes me very, very excited, and I'm sad that I didn't pick him for making it here. But I do think that this meta shows our previous conversation. This is all skill expression, right? Like the Dash and the Viz are here because of a little bit of gem luck. I'm sure matchups helped them, but I think it was really being able to play through the field with the hero that you're proficient at. Really shows up a ton in this game. If someone just sticks with a deck, knows their matchups, they can be favored into almost any meta. And I think this really shows it with a Dash player taking this down. I don't know this Dash player, but I'm going to assume this is not the first time they've taken Dash to a major event.
No, they played it at the previous calling. What was it? Balhard and Richmond.
Did this person? I'm just taking a quick look. Yeah, they also. Yeah. I think they made it to top 8, and I think they lost in the quarters. I don't know what they lost to in the quarters of Battlehard and Richmond, but yeah, clearly a very good Dash player.
Yeah, so Viscera is really cool to see there. He's we love Viscera on this channel. But the dash is an interesting one. I think dash is right there with Azalea. Like not in the triangle, but like they have good matchups or really hard. Like it, yeah. Maybe even dash might even just have better matchups right into the triangle than Azalea does. Because Azalea really only beats Lexi in the triangle, and that's even pretty tight because Lexi's.
Yeah.
But I think Dash has a really good game plan into Oldham as the hybrid version. I'm pretty sure this person was on hybrid, though deck lists haven't been released. Dash has like a really weird matchup in Idoromai. And I never really got good at it when I was playing Dash a bunch. But you have the tools, right? Induction chamber pistol is like one of the most efficient ways to clear dragons. So like you definitely have the tool to play a value game and keep them off the board, while still being able to present good damage.
Yeah.
And then it loses to Lexi. But I think against the
I think it loses
version,
to Azalea too, honestly.
yeah, but
I think the
yeah,
fact that
value
this
game
this dash dodged Azalea is a big deal. There's so many, like, it's really hard to consistently cover up, and especially now that Azalea makes her arrows like so much bigger, and she's not just like coming in for 7 or 8. It's just coming in for like 10 to 12. It just makes it a lot harder to cover up those dominated arrows. But I mean, to your point, Archer, you said Dash probably loses to Lexi. Dash taking down Lexi in the finals.
So you cut me off before I was going to continue what I was going to say.
Oh shit! Well,
so,
yeah, I'm just an asshole. Then. Okay, go on.
Dash has a really hard time blocking Lexi. But I think what a lot of these hybrid dashes, at least, are doing into Lexi, as long as they're not ice heavy, they're going aggro into them and just racing, right? Because like you can do that. And so I haven't seen the calling finals, but I have a feeling he went pounder and raced. And Dash has some of the best numbers for doing that.
Do you think, is that the only, like, do you think that's like your plan A going into Lexi? You just try to outrace them?
If you're an aggro deck, I think that's your best plan.
Sure. What do you think, Jacob? How is the I know that this was relatively close to what you predicted. What do you think about Dash in the meta? What do you think about the top 8 in general?
I mean, I think Dash has a great spot in the meta. I think a deck that can pretty easily switch between a defensive game plan and an offensive game plan. That being said, they have to do it probably before the match starts in a lot of cases. It proves to be really powerful. Like the fact that it took down, I haven't played Dash a bunch, but the fact that it took down 2 high-level Oldham players is really respectable. Whatever that game plan is, has to be effective. I am really impressed that Mr. took down Azalea more than anything. That matchup seems pretty tough. The on hits from Azalea keep you a little bit out of the race, and is really doesn't mind playing like a 3-card hand or a 2-card hand or 3-card hand, but 1 from Arsenal. So he only really wants to block 6. So like the really big arrows are a problem because they're going to push through really nasty on hits from Azalea. I know I played Dominate Ice Lexi list recently. I called it Azalea cosplay. Was a problem for any aggro list. I'm really interested I really wish there was a recording of the final match, actually, just so I can see the dash game plan into Lexi. I think Archer's correct. I think it definitely is a race.
I'm inclined to agree.
Yeah, like Dash's numbers are good, but can't you just fatigue yourself like much quicker if Lexi decides to block at all and just can like play to the I get a 6-card hand, I block 2, I still have a 4-card hand. I'm gonna win.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lexi could fatigue bad dash players. But like when you're when you're playing dash, like, and you're going aggressive into someone, if you see them blocking a bunch, like you just hold back, set up, and it's like then you go over blocks, and it doesn't really matter. Like even aggro, yeah, I think you have to adjust a little bit, but it's probably not great for the Lexi to try to fatigue.
My inclination too for dash is like with Lexi, you can if you have like a medium hand, it comes down to that like basic like fab math, right? That I think Michael Hamilton kind of popularized is like, okay, my hand can do this much damage, and I'm probably going to take this much damage. Like, should I block, right? And I think Lexi could probably do that, except in the case of maybe like Pulse Wave Harpoon, like
Yeah.
Archer was saying earlier. There aren't really any on hits in dash, right? There's like combustible courier, and I mean pulse wave isn't an on hit, but it's disruptive. So uh, I can see a world where like there's that game plan that you brought up, Jacob. Like you kind of just like tempo block, and if there's like a combustible courier, maybe you block, and then when you find yourself in a spot like okay, I'll like I can just take 10 damage and come back for 20, right? Or 40 or whatever.
Doesn't I feel like Viscera has very similar game plans though, right? Like he can kind of switch between a more defensive style and a more offensive style, and he actually can do it mid play. Like you really can change the way that you're leading that deck and block a lot more and set up rune chance for big
I mean,
swing turns.
there's a reason I play a lot of Dash and Viscera. They're very similar.
Yeah. I think that's relevant. I think this top eight specifically shows, or even the top four shows that this and Dash kind of sit right outside of our triangle. I think people say Briar sits there too, and I would agree. I wish my boy Katsu was right there, but the Oldham matchup is just so abysmal that it really forces them out. Whereas I think
Yeah.
Dash and Viz definitely have more play because they can play it defensively and set up for a tempo turn a lot easier than Katsu can. Because Katsu will do it with like a card in Arsenal, whereas Dash can set up items that can be really relevant, and then Viscerai can build the rune chance that can end up being really relevant when you have it's like a 0 card 12 or 1 card 12. So I think it's really interesting to see that the mid range meta is actually pretty healthy. Like we have this far spectrum of Lexi representing aggro, and we have the far spectrum of Oldhim representing defensive play. And Dromai is illusionist. They kind of like break the game. their whole thing. So the mid range actually is proving to be exactly that, mid range. And I don't know if we've ever. People said the last meta was mid range representative. I didn't really feel that way. I thought it was tempo based. Every deck that was good was like tempo based, and the best deck was the Queen of Tempo. Icelander was just playing on both ends of the table. But this meta actually might be a true mid ranger's dream. Like if you're good on your deck, you know how to switch your game plans mid game. I think you can bring in your Reinars, your Dashes, and your Viscerais and put in some work right now. But you're definitely not playing the top decks.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think there's no mistake that this is if you're choosing to do that, you're saying, "Hey, I'm a good player and I'm going to come into this field and show up," but you're not setting yourself up for success. You're not playing the best deck in the format.
Well, and this leads to kind of my like, closing question, right? Is like you see the top 8 of the calling, the top 8 of the Pro Tour. So 2 questions, like are there any heroes that could attack this meta? Like we have Dash, Viscerai, Oldhim, that kind of thing. And then where do we go from here, right? Like not necessarily like, oh, we need to ban something, but like how does the meta evolve assuming no bans?
You asked a lot of questions.
I think it's 2 questions. Are there heroes that could attack this meta, and how does the meta evolve? It's kind of the same question almost.
Yeah, so 100%. I mean, we're already talking about these heroes that attack the meta. Dash, Viscerai. Who else? We have Reinar has potential. Bravo's same type of plays. Briar's just a good deck, so I will always respect it and put it up at the top. And you're seeing people play a little more blocky too, so you're playing towards those power turns. Yeah, that's what comes to mind. these types of decks that can like target a couple of the good matchups. And then yeah, I'm really happy as a Lexi player to see not Lexi win any event. Because maybe that'll make people chill the fuck out a little bit. Yeah, and I think you're just gonna see. I don't think you're gonna see 50% conversion of Lexi at like an RTN season. That feels a little high. It was like 25% of the meta, and then it converted 50% to the top 8. So that's is that 200%? No, I don't think that's how you do that. Whatever.
So the top 8 conversion would be it's 50% of the top 8, but like it's like there's 4 Lexi players in the top 8, and like I think there were like 93 that showed up to the Pro Tour. But that's like a really good conversion rate just in general for a hero, I think.
Okay, hold on. Not numbers out of my ass. I think it was they represented 20+% of the meta, and then represented 50% of top 8. So that's kind of where
That's a good comparison for sure. And that kind of speaks to its power level, I think. I think that's the point you were trying to make, Archer. But correct us if we're wrong.
No, you just said the same thing I said.
Yeah, only we said it smartly.
And then
go ahead.
I don't know if I have too much of an opinion because I stick to the decks around the meta generally. And right now, it's particularly this season, I have forced my mentality to be in this kind of if we're calling the triangle S tier, the A tier decks. So the Reinars, the Briars, the Vizes. Like I said, I really wanted to squeeze Katsu in there. I think I really pushed that deck as far as I can get it to go. And I just hate my Oldhim matchup so much. So I'm really looking at the Rune Blades and how disruptive they can be. I really want to test out a Pummely version of both of those heroes for a little bit. It's just because I think the disruption can be huge into the Ranger matchup. Like a Reek Pummel Viz kind of dealio, or I always call it Cadaver's Contraband. What's the yellow Runeblade card that costs 3?
Cryptic Crossing. Yeah, the other CC.
I really wish that card was good.
It's not.
I know it's not. I know it's not because you have to take a bunch of damage to try to do it, and it's
maybe when we get a light Runeblade.
Then it'll be good. Well, do you have to take a bunch of damage? So like, so two cards in hand. Let's say you're always playing Tunic and Viscerai, right? So you have Tunic. But you have to pitch an attack and a non-attack. So you have to have a 3-card hand plus Pummel and Arsenal. Yeah. Okay, that's that. You do have
guaranteed
to take damage.
And you have to pitch a yellow and a blue if you don't have the Tunic resource up. So it's like that's why I say it's like a light Runeblade thing. Yeah. Once you get more of these like good yellow cards and an incentive to run yellow cards, and Cryptic Crossing is a yellow, bro.
Yeah,
a light. Do you think they're gonna make a light Runeblade? That'd be sweet.
Yeah, why not?
I'd love that. I think that'd be really cool flavor wise. I don't know. So Archer, you did some really horrible math about the meta, but like, did you give your thoughts about how the meta kind of evolves from here?
Yeah. So that was what I was getting at when I was saying I don't think it's going to have this like 50% conversion rate, or that's not the rate. That's what we discussed. But it's gonna be like close to, and it's gonna be that 10-20% representation in RTN season. I don't think it's really gonna hit that 25%. That's kind of crazy. But I think it's gonna 10 to 20. I think you're gonna see the same for the Dromais and the Oldhams, and the decks that we talked about. Like those decks are gonna be in the sub 10. Maybe they sneak up into the low 10s. The Dashes, the Viscerais, the Wizards, the Bravos.
Yeah.
I think anything that can target 2 of the 3 will just pop up. And like if your deck is tuned to have a bad matchup, like if you're like willing to just be like, I have this awful, like Katsu even. It's like I'm willing to have the worst Oldhim matchup possible but my matchup into Dromai and the Rangers is so good that I can play this deck, then I think you have a good deck on your hands. And vice versa. Like, if you're willing to just give up, probably you want to give up either Oldhim or Dromai, because if you give up Lexi, you're also giving up your Azalea matchup a lot of times. Like, you're just giving up on the Ranger matchup, and you're just going to get really eaten up. And I don't know if we see, like, to your question, Tim, I don't know if we see like a shift meta. I think our triangle is our triangle until we either get some bans or we get a new set. Like, and I'm totally comfortable with that. I think I love when a triangle is set up, the rock paper scissors, and then it's on the players to figure it out. Whether that's tuning the one of the triangles to have better matchups, or it's tuning against them. I think going into this Pro Tour and calling, a lot of players are talking about, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to play. A lot of people were overestimating Azalea. A lot of people were underestimating Oldhim. And now, or Dromai, excuse me. Nobody underestimated Oldhim. A lot of people underestimate Dromai. And now it's like definitively proven, like, no, this is a deck that you have to be prepared for and you have to prep for. You need to have the plans for. So I will be totally open and interested to see where the meta goes as far as how it responds to the new rock paper scissors.
Yeah, and I mean, going into like the next kind of like milestone in competitive Flesh and Blood is RTN season, and I think going into RTN season, it's going to be a lot like PQ season, where it's like I showed up to a PQ, and I know this isn't the same everywhere, but like people were kind of just playing the decks they wanted to play anyway. And as long as you have a game plan into those top 3 decks, kind of like you guys were saying, it's like, I think you're fine to just kind of play. Like, I think you could justify playing a Katsu and like maybe lose to one Oldhim and hopefully dodge him in the top 8 or whatever, and then you've got yourself an RTN win, right? And I feel like, I don't know. I like the meta too. Like, I think that like, if you look at it in the light of like, oh, well, like Lexi was 50% of the top 8, and like, oh, Codex of Frailty, blah blah blah. Like, yeah, it's like, sure, at a high level pro event, it's like, it's maybe a problem, but like, I also think that it's pretty indicative of the actual power level of the decks that they didn't win any of the events, right? So yeah, I'm curious to see if there are bans, and I'm curious to see like how the narrative shifts over the next couple of weeks.
I feel like I don't want bans. I do feel like there will be a ban. Knowing how LSS reacts, like when a deck is like this dominant. So if we look at like both of these events,
the announcement's gonna probably go up before this episode is live.
Oh. So we're all.
I'm gonna try to, because it's going out. It's on the 3rd, right? So I'm gonna try to actually edit this today,
yeah,
and publish it. So I hope it comes out before the ban, and then we'll look like geniuses, or like idiots. I don't know.
I mean, either way, I think what I was gonna say is that we have. If we combine both of these top 8s, we have a top 16, right, over the entire weekend. And Lexi is 6 of those decks. That's almost half. It's not horrible, but I think because they hit like Stubbies before Fi was like truly a tyrant. But they saw the trend that was going to happen, and I think this does hint toward a trend of Lexi being like overly represented. Again, I don't think that that's like a problem, but if I were LSS, I would maybe look to do something surgical. I think we all talked about like kind of big hits that could happen, 3 of a kind, or something, a Voltaire, which would be way too much. But I am really interested if they can make just like a surgical little cut, like something very small and innocuous, like Autumn's Touch for Oldhim, where everyone was like, "Why are we banning this card? That doesn't make any." Or for Starvos, like that doesn't make any sense. It was just enough to pull that deck down a little bit.
So Infecting Shot kind of fits in that.
I think so. And is it Infecting Shot's the one that gives you a blood rot, right? Yeah, that's a really good arrow.
And Bolton Shot that's why I mentioned that, because that would be a similar type of like I mentioned those things because LSS does trend towards like very particular bans and suspensions. Yeah.
Because I think, like we take away infecting shot, we still have deathly touch. So it's like it just changes. It's just not an arrow, so you can't load it with Voltaire. Like there's things like that make it so the deck is not completely neutered, but has to take alternate paths. Right? Deathly touch blocks for 2. So I think infecting shot's actually a pretty nice choice.
That's kind of a nice shout out, Archer. Is that is a very powerful arrow. Like essentially, it's a 1 for 7, right?
Or 2 for 8.
Yeah, and does it? It doesn't naturally have go again, right? It just but it gets it from Voltaire. So yeah. So yeah, 1 for 7 go again is
no, it's a 2 for 7 if it has go again.
Well, you sure. Well, no, but I mean like oh yeah, that's true. But like assuming you you pitch a blue, and you load with Voltaire, and then you come in like it's 2 cards for 7, which is above rate, and you're not losing your action points, so it's pretty good. Anyway, yeah.
I love the laces for Azalea. Like, I actually think that's it's a very strategic, and it's something that I could see them doing, where it's just like this doesn't change the meta per se. It just changes maybe the perception and of the power level a little.
It definitely feels like an autumn touch.
Yeah,
they want to go that route.
Yeah, I could also see them getting rid of like lace with inertia or something, like something that's like not a linchpin, but like is like annoying, right? Like
the pumps aren't really LEXI cards.
I think isn't Lexi playing lace with inertia? Oh, I mean I've seen Lexi's play lace with inertia, but like but something along those lines. Like I think that it would be.
I don't think you'll see a lace of inertia in any of the topping lists from this weekend.
I'll have to look. Maybe I'm just thinking of Azalea actually now that I think about it. Because Lexi is like it's just like 45 arrows, right?
Lexi would run Seek and Destroy before lace with inertia.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But yeah,
not to shit on you too much.
No, that's fine. You're right. Like now that I'm thinking about it, like I guess that I've only really seen lace in the dominate ice Lexi lists and the Azalea lists once lace as well. So but yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that you could pull it back with a ban. I kind of hope there are no bans, but like I know that LSS has to sell packs, so
I hope they unban shit. That's all.
Unban Pulsifies and Loft.
Scale it up. Scale it up.
Unban Skeletor. Yes, I'm into that. Although, and I don't think that'd be that bad either. Like I don't think it'd be that bad.
It would.
Unban red
though.
Skeletor's not. Like the fact that we lost pouncing links and stubby hammers. Like Skeletor does the same thing at a minimum.
Yeah, that's true.
Without Sonata.
And you know what? Stubby hammers. That's actually not true. I was gonna say stubby hammers couldn't OTK, but it was literally OTKing people. But you stubby hammers doesn't like facilitate a grindy game plan that can then just be like, whoops, 50 damage. So unbanning Skeletor is probably a bad idea, but it is what it is. Okay, well, any closing thoughts from you hooligans before we wrap it up here?
I'm excited to play some RTNs.
Yeah, I'm actually super excited for RTN season.
Me too. Yeah, I'm excited to dig in and just I'm sticking to one deck this season. I don't know, sticking to one deck and just gonna grind it out, and I'm really excited to play test with the team. So, yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Like and subscribe. Do all the stuff. Leave a comment telling us about how bad our math is and how handsome we all are. I'd say we're the best looking podcast on YouTube, actually, if I were to guess. Name a better looking podcast. Name a better looking pass. Arsenal Pass. I don't know. I think Hayden Dale's carrying the team on that one.
Russian Bloods, dude.
Yeah.
Tommy Fresh is a good looking guy.
Yeah. Tommy Fresh is definitely. I would take Tommy Fresh on a date.
Hell, even Savage Land News. I think.
Oh, Nathan's also a good-looking guy. Yeah, but okay, but the three of us combined.
Have you seen him with his glasses?
Yeah.
Oh,
I saw him at an armory, and I was like, he's like, yeah, I know, my hair's growing out, and I'm wearing glasses. I'm like, it works. Okay,
we're gonna have to drag him into an episode. We're gonna have to drag him into an episode. I'm sure he'd love to.
Yeah, no, he's down to do a collab, and we were chatting on Discord the other day, and he's like, yeah, he's open to it. So I'm excited to get that going at some point. All right, well, we'll just for now say that we're the most handsome until proven otherwise. And yeah, thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next week. Say goodbye, everybody.
See you.